President Trump is now considering phasing out a program that has protected young undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children. And unfortunately, that earlier number, 9 dead, officials here expect that number to rise. Those are just the numbers, and if you get a look at some of the damage that you're seeing, lot after lot after lot of what were people's homes now completely in rubble. It's been a big question for a long time. This immigration debate really divided the country for months now, and tonight both sides are speaking out. Fox 40's Sinceri Thompson joins us live at the Capitol with that story. What we saw earlier, shoes on the ground, bags, things that people left behind, really tells a story of a mass panic as people were leaving that area. You can see over my shoulder the Mandalay Bay Resort with those windows still shot out. Yeah, that's exactly right. It is on schedule November 1st, just a couple of days from now. But the budget issue is now the big story, and you can see there are still a lot of people working on this. The sanctuary state bill was really the hallmark of resistance to the Trump administration coming into office for months now, and today it's just one governor's signature away from becoming law here. Yeah, in a time when Congress really doesn't seem to get a lot done, agree on much, or like to spend money on infrastructure, people in the Sacramento region have pulled together and they've secured $50 million for a streetcar project that's now going to connect one growing city to another. As people return to these neighborhoods, the remnants tell their own story. A thriving patio at one point, tables, chairs, a grill that now all sit empty in front of the rubble of what was somebody's home. We're continuing to follow now the protests in the Bay Area this weekend. Things largely remained peaceful during planned protests in San Francisco yesterday. Not the case today. They took a more tense turn this afternoon in Berkeley. But even at the hospital, we just found out 317 people have been released from the hospital. So life coming back to normal, but still, there are reminders everywhere in this town of that tragedy, and they're not going away anytime soon. Some big international news today. The United Nations Security Council unanimously passed a resolution that hits North Korea with a new round of sanctions. And that is where we begin tonight, right in southeastern Texas, where thousands of people are dealing with damage and with devastation there. If there is a silver lining in this tragedy, that is what it is. As we so often see in this country, when we have these situations, people are stepping up, people are trying to unite this community.
Fox 40's Joe Khalil is in Las Vegas with one story of one special recovery.
Ty, Nikki, what we often see with these tragedies is unsung heroes emerge, and the woman that we talked to today absolutely, without question, fits that category. She risked her own life to save the life of somebody who at the time was a complete stranger, and now that he's recovering safely in this hospital behind us, the two have become much closer.
Seeing him gets better helps me cope with this tragedy every single moment.
For the 4th day in a row, Lene Sampson is at Valley Hospital visiting Luca Icloden, a young man she didn't know before Sunday, a young man who, without her, likely wouldn't be alive today.
We're trying to get into this trailer, and all of a sudden he says to me, "I've been hit."
She was working behind the bar at the Country Music Festival when the gunfire started, while hundreds were running away as a man rained bullets down from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort into a crowd. Sampson stopped for Luca, holding him up as the two took cover.
And I pull back my hand, and I'm covered in blood. I'm just covered, and all I see is Luca in his hand, his other hand, his phone, and the picture of his mom. And at that point, I literally just had to say, okay, I can't leave you. Let's go. We have to get out of here. We have to move from this spot right now.
I don't want nobody to go through that no parents to feel that.
It wasn't until he was safely at the hospital that Sampson got a hold of Tryon Icloden, Luca's father. But not before she got Luca into a wheelbarrow and rolled him into an ambulance.
I don't think I prayed in the last 20 years together how much I prayed in that night.
The prayers worked. After 7 grueling hours in the OR, Sampson never leaving his side, doctors told Luca's parents their son would survive. He did lose a portion of his right lung, but every day, doctors have told his family he's getting stronger. Talking still leaves him in pain, but when Luca sees Sampson, his hand gestures convey how thankful he is.
And I don't know if God just put me in the right spot at the right time and made me strong enough for the both of us. I don't know.
We are overwhelmed. I don't know. I have no words to say right now how happy we are and blessed.
Claudin says Samson is now like family. He calls her Luca's angel.
Thank you. I will never be able to tell.
And while she doesn't have wings, seeing Luca strong enough to smile makes her feel like she's soaring.
He's my hero. He's surviving every day, and every minute he gets better. And it just makes me even more happy and excited about everything.
As a battle brews between so-called sanctuary cities and the Trump administration.
Fox 40's Joe Khalil spoke to some members of the House and the Senate today. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Joe, it seems like this fight isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No, you're right about that. You know, we've heard a lot of back and forth already on this sanctuary city issue. And even after we had a federal judge declare that it would be unconstitutional for the government to strip funding from these cities, still, if you ask the people who work here at Capitol Hill behind us, this issue is not going anywhere anytime soon. It's a fight as ideological as it is political. Cities across the nation, like Sacramento, refusing federal orders and instead holding strong on being sanctuaries for undocumented people at risk of deportation.
The administration's policies as it relates to sanctuary city are just overreaching. And I'm very proud of California and its leadership on this issue.
U.S. Senator Kamala Harris has pushed back against the administration. She's asked for a commitment to protect undocumented people brought into the U.S. by their parents at a young age, and stands behind a federal judge's order that the president can't cut funding to a city or a state.
We have seen progress in terms of pushing back against that, but it's far from over.
The Trump administration's repeatedly threatened to strip funding from cities and the state of California for not complying with immigration orders. Despite the threats, some mayors nationwide, including Darrell Steinberg, haven't changed their sanctuary policy.
I'm always worried. You know, the federal government is powerful and the President of the United States is powerful. But we have to stand strong for our values.
While two federal judges ordered the president's move unconstitutional, he still carries support among members of Congress.
If a community or a state is refusing to enforce federal law, they should not be receiving federal law enforcement funds.
California Congressman Tom McClintock calls it a no-brainer. He says anyone in the U.S. illegally should be deported.
Every other country in the world enforces their immigration laws. Why aren't we?
What both sides do agree on, the debate and the battle in Congress are a long way from settled. Now, last night, Congress did pass a temporary spending bill that will avoid a government shutdown, and it's going to keep the government funded through September. Interesting to note that in that funding package, nowhere was anything mentioned about cutting funding to sanctuary cities or to the state of California. Reporting live in Washington, D.C., Joe Khalil, Fox 40 News.
They survived Nazi occupation, but now elderly twins are facing another battle, homelessness. Now their family is desperately trying to help them.
Fox 40's Joe Khalil has the story you'll see only on Fox 40.
For 84 years, twin brothers Clifford and Gary Kukok have done everything together. Survived Nazi occupation in their native Netherlands together, moved to the U.S. and worked in Hollywood together, and now have become homeless together.
Right now I'm broke.
So you're just relying on friends to help you
Eat. Sometimes we don't eat.
10 years ago, they say they wanted to fix the roof on this Orangevale home, which the twins say they bought from their mother. It's been in their family since 1984.
We took a loan thinking that we had a conventional loan.
But it wasn't. It was an adjustable rate loan, meaning their payments got higher and higher over time. Eventually, they couldn't afford it. The bank foreclosed, and in October of last year, they were kicked out. The 84-year-old twins had nowhere to turn. They began sleeping in their car together. We asked if they ever felt overwhelmed.
All the time. I would almost say hell.
Hell. The two say they spend most of their time now just walking. Both log plenty of hours at this Orangevale library. Gary mostly pores over deed records, trying to find a way to get this house back. But the odds aren't good.
They were just living in their car in front of Rayleigh's when I found out.
Aaron Herner's been a family friend for 10 years. He's been making a social media push to find them more permanent housing. The whole experience has given him a new perspective on homelessness.
And it's easy to walk by and not look at their situation, but if you stop and talk to somebody, everybody has a story.
And their story has certainly had its dramatic ups and downs, and at 84, they seem to have hit their most difficult chapter.
It's a lot of stress.
It's difficult.
I'd rather go back to the war and go shell that in this crap.
Clifford and Gary have both been able to stay at the homes of friends on and off, but now they say they're looking for more permanent housing. They're also looking for an attorney who's dealt with predatory lending who might be willing to look at their case. In Orangevale, Joe Khalil, Fox 40 News.
We are continuing to keep an eye on the Oroville Dam. Efforts to shore up the emergency spillway are still underway. Fox 40's Joe Khalil is live at the Oroville Dam with more on the work happening now. Joe.
Yeah, and even now, throughout the rain, we're still seeing crews in the air and those helicopters making those big boulder drops. We're still seeing crews here on the ground. The presser today, it was all good news from all the agencies that are working on this. All of them appear to have a better handle on the situation than they did a couple of days ago, but still, it's raining right now. It's been raining all day, and that is what has people nervous here in Oroville. Trucks on the ground, helicopters in the sky over the Oroville Dam despite the rain.
We've been working very hard to reduce the water level behind the lake.
Department of Water Resources Acting Director Bill Croyle says they've made good progress lowering Lake Oroville's depth, now at 861 feet, hoping to bring that number down to 850 by the end of the weekend, giving the dam more room to collect fresh rainwater without the likelihood of mass flooding.
Again, Mother Nature's in the room, but I do not expect that to be a risk.
Friday afternoon, engineers slowed the dam's water releases from 80,000 to 70,000 cubic feet per second. Another sign of confidence, the emergency spillway will hold up. But many people in Oroville still getting ready for another evacuation.
But I know there are people that are in panic mode. But I am going to watch, and if it ever gets close to the overflow, I'm not going to wait for him to say it'll never happen. Take my leave.
Like many forced to evacuate last weekend, Leah Harrington says the ordeal made her more prepared. Should it happen again, she's ready to go at a moment's notice.
Did you cover everything? I left my checkbook, medications that kind of had, but there's little detailed things that you got to remember.
So you have them now?
Oh, all of it.
Now I have a bag and stuff. Make sure I have provisions at home in case I can't get out.
Butte County Sheriff Corey Honey says officials have their eye on the weekend weather, but don't expect more evacuations.
That the likelihood is low, but my job is to keep people prepared, so they've got to pay attention.
And the sheriff there also said that it wasn't just residents of Oroville who feel more confident if they have to evacuate their homes. He says his own department, other sheriff's departments in the area all feel more confident in the evacuation process if it comes to that because of what they had to go through and learn from last weekend. Reporting live at the Oroville Dam, Joe Khalil, Fox 40 News.